Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Hello and welcome to a Grotty special. It's Grotty and it's special. We are going to be revisiting our very first ever episode. I'm joined by John the Blood Angels Commander and Mark Mephiston, the Angel of Death, the Chief Librarian himself.
Lovely to be a guest here. It's very much appreciated. Great to meet you guys. It's a wonderful time. Yeah,
I think this is exciting. I've wanted to do this for a while because our first episode had some great ideas, but it was largely shit.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be quite fun to go back over it. So today we're going to try and go back to those important things. I don't even think I used to drink beer on it originally.
No, I don't think you drank beer in the first episode.
You were dry when we first started doing this. You didn't have a drink at all. It was
well, we did for the tier
these episodes. It's driven you to drink every step along the way. Engaging with the fandom has brought you to this sorry state we see before us with your with your well done hair and your tie and waistcoat and
this is my everyday wear. This
apparently, yeah. He who works many jobs weareth the tithe at 8 o'clock at night every night.
Apparently, I have to be respectable these days. I'm not allowed to just sort of rock around.
Whereas John's is all about what sort of a Mickey Mouse show he puts on most of the time.
Hey, I love Mickey Mouse. What can you say? Let's talk about what we're really here to talk about is army listing like a pro. That's what we're going to get to.
But first, as a callback to our very first episode, we've got a segment that we've resurrected. Let's talk about the news.
Because when we first started, we thought it was a really good idea to do all the filler stuff first before we got to what you were actually here to watch. So let's drag it all out and talk about all this sort of extra stuff. Yep.
Such a cynic. Let's talk about the news. Come on.
Right,
newsy.
Drink.
Well, there is some very exciting news, I suppose. Is after 1 year, I think we got what we wanted, didn't we? Because we all complained that chapter-approved books came every 6 months and nobody could keep up.
It's such a waste of paper.
It was a giant waste of paper. And from each chapter approved being every 6 months, sometimes in the 6 months release, there was no mission changes or nothing like that. It was like, what are we even paying for here? So we now have each season of 40k lasting 1 year and it being much more deck-based. And you can see on screen Pariah Nexus. If by the time you're watching this, I assume Pariah Nexus is going to be out because I think it was, or you might be coming out the date because this will come out on the 20th. I think Pariah Nexus is coming out
2 days after. Yeah.
2 days after. So
2 days after. So
okay,
you'll be able to pick this up on the Saturday if you're watching this. I guess I don't know if it would be too late to probably pre-order it, but maybe you go down to your local Games Workshop, pick up the cards. I have actually already played one game using the new cards.
Cool, because they've been spoiled to hell and back already by a whole bunch of people who've got early access cards.
Yeah, and I do want to say early impressions of the new cards are good. Little things that were bad previously, for example, you drew Bring It Down in turn 5 and you'd already killed all your opponent's tanks and monsters. You couldn't score it, you were stuck with it. Now there's little caveats like that where it'll be like, if you draw Bring It Down and you can never score it, you can discard it. There's some other ones that say, like, if you draw, I think, behind enemy lines in turn 1 now, you can, pretty hard to do behind enemy lines in turn 1, you can discard it. So they've actually been listening. So first impressions of the set seems very positive. Secret missions are a new thing that replace gambits. They also seem more useful. So
they couldn't be much less useful, let's face it. Really.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw one ever come up.
Never, ever. Or just completely boycotted through the entire first year of the life cycle of the game.
Pretty much, yeah. And there's a little bit of a new focus on battle eye units. So some missions have abilities that only battle line units can do, and some maps, or I guess they're called secondary objectives. Some secondary objectives will boost your battle line units. So,
and once we've all got these in hand, we're going to go through them in detail and do a thorough review and coverage of all the new missions, all the new objectives. Do a suggestion of the sort of things you might want to bear in mind when army listing for the new set of missions coming in Pariah Nexus and the new set of objectives, changes that we might want to bear in mind, all that sort of stuff, as we've done with previous versions.
Yeah, and I want to say that the video that we did about those previously was actually really good. If you're going to a tournament, that video was really useful to learn how to get the most out of the mission deck. And I think I used a bunch of the little caveats that we discussed on that video. So we'll do that. We'll break that down. So that if you haven't subscribed yet to the 3 Grots, then you're not going to want to miss that. That'll come a month or something after the mission cards come out, once we all know exactly all the ins and outs.
Play with them and got our heads around them.
And then the only other thing to say is 80 or 85% of the missions are probably the same. So it's not like you have to relearn everything, which I also like. I like keeping the popular stuff, keeping the stuff that was good, and then just iterating on it. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with the mission deck.
Cool. There has been another little bit of Blood Angels news in Warhammer World as well, although it's not really relevant to anything 40k. Horus Heresy got a little bit of Blood Angels news when they finally got Blood Angels rules for Sanguinary Guard.
Oh, did you see the cult opaque models they did as well?
They look very, very nice indeed.
Absolutely stunning. I did cost them up, and they're a lot.
Yeah.
I thought
it was 2 resin upgrade kits and a unit of assault marines.
They look a lot more like they did in the Horus Heresy artwork for Sanguinius standing in front of the siege wall in that Siege of Terror book. So I get that.
I thought this is what you were going to tell us about. No?
No,
you said new Blood Angels news. I thought you were going to talk about the new Commander Dante Joy toy that just got announced today.
You're definitely going to buy it, aren't you?
I feel like I definitely have to buy it. How cool is
it? So they had the range of these models on sale at the Games Expo the other weekend. I was like this close to buying the Mephiston model that they had there. It was like 35 quid in hand right then and there on the
that's a
floor.
Good price, man, because I assume that once you ship this over from America, you won't be able to get it for anything less than like 50, right?
Well, that's why it was just a case of, buying it from the official retail source on a stall in the expo, yeah.
So it looks like Dante has some sort of flight stand?
Yeah, I'd figure. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think I definitely want to get Dante. Oh,
or maybe he's just like overbalanced and... Oh, you got a Meph. Nice.
I got him for Christmas.
He's awesome.
He is cool. He's such a cool model.
How highly do you reckon his paint job is? Like, is it a battle ready paint job, or he's got like a bit more detail? Like, what do you think of the colours on him?
It's a giant model, so it means that you can go into a little bit more detail. But there's a bit of shading on it, there's a bit of highlighting on it, there's a little bit of weathering here and there. So considering it is an action figure, quite an expensive action figure, it looks all right. One thing that I do quite like is the way that they've made these kind of like cloth. They've made it out of like a rubber material.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it stays splayed out.
So it's not rigid. Yeah.
But so it's got a little bit in there, but it is still holds its shape. So it's quite nice.
Very cool.
So yeah, he's pretty cool. I do think he was worth the money. He lives in my living room next to. I've got 2 of them. I've got one of them. I've got one of the intercessors as well, which is quite cool.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So we've had Horus Heresy rules. We've had a Joy toy. We've got Pariah Nexus coming out. We do have Codex Gene Stealer and Codex Sisters of Battle on the imminent horizon. So I guess the question is, the next episode of 3 Grots, we'll probably talk about the new roadmap, because I assume we'll have to get like a year 2 roadmap for...
We've been assuming that for the last month and it hasn't shown up, so I'm not holding my breath at this stage.
True. We can only hope. So we'll find out what the next episode is when we do it. Cool. So should we get on with what we're talking about then?
Yeah, let's do that.
Right, get rid of that then.
I thought it was Pile of Gory after.
Oh, you're right. It is
after news.
We're doing this in the classic order.
That you demanded we do this.
I did demand it. I was like, if we're going to go back to the first episode, we're going to keep the first episode structure. So we've got the news.
Very demanding.
Then we've got Pile of Gory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which was originally actually called Pile of Glory, so it's not much of a throwback. But I think the typo crept in a few episodes later.
It did. I think it crept in when I made this template, and then I never changed it for the however many years we've been doing this.
I was going to say, yeah. Cool.
So, first thing we've got, John, you painted a Dante.
I mean, he's not. He's battle ready at the lowest denomination of battle ready. I'm running a GT in 2 weeks, right? So, my Dante had like no colours on him. Now he has like 3. I need to slap some texture paint on him this weekend, but I guess
hold on, you're running a GT and playing in it?
Yes.
I hope you're not planning on winning it, because you can't win your own GT, John.
Well,
that's Andrew's bad form.
Andrew's now bringing the Sisters of Battle because the Codex is coming out like a week before, and we've decided we're going to play on the new rules. So Andrew's going to win the GT because I don't know if you've read the Sisters Codex, but it's definitely creeping a little bit. So it won't matter. Everybody, Brett's playing as well. Miles is playing. All the crackheads are playing.
It's hard to tell if it's power creeping or not with the actual final points value for it.
Yeah, it'll really depend because, for example, Morganval is only 10 points more expensive than Dante, and if you put them side by side, she looks insane. So, I've painted a Dante. I put a Bloodthirster head on his base, which I thought was cool.
Plus, I mean, let's be fair here, Tony. John can't win tournaments, so it's not really. There's not really any risk of that.
You can't win your own tournament. Yeah, if you're going to turn up, you've got to graciously lose in the final round.
It is bad form.
I think if I get to the final, I will sit out and commentate the final. Maybe we'll see.
If you get to the final, what are you going to do then? Give your opponent a bye?
Well, no, whoever's the third place can play at the top table, second versus third, and I'll commentate and I'll stream it or something. And I also gave him a set of Sanguinor wings. So,
is that what they are in the back? Okay.
Yeah.
They do look good. They look part of the model from the front anyway, so that's a high praise, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I like the new Dante model. I love the new Primaris models. Actually, I think the size of that model is so cool. Blood Angels don't get a ton of big models, so this was a really fun model, and I'm going to enjoy finishing them. I just don't have time right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
The new models are nice. GW have been masters of making really good looking plastic models for quite some time now. Props to them for that.
Yeah, definitely. The Mephiston, Primaris Mephiston was a phenomenal model to paint as well.
Yeah, I like that model a lot as well.
Right,
here's to hoping we get some more Primaris characters this year to paint.
Oh yeah, definitely. Who would you want if you're going to pick someone?
Yeah, that's a good call. Out of who's left and we haven't had yet. Who do you want?
I would say Astrath, because spoiler for his recent book. If you didn't read his recent book, he lost his entire set of armor. Remember, he got eaten by an eel or something, so his power armor is completely fucked. And he has a very special set of armor. So why would they rebuild the armor before putting him through the Rubicon? So let's say Astrath.
There's a bit of logic there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Tony.
I think I would quite like to see a new Sanguinor.
Yeah, that's the other heavily.
I just think that's a good opportunity to do something a bit big and special with that model. And to be honest, apart from the Darren Latham paint job, it's not my favourite model in the range.
Yeah,
it's quite. I think Lamarte's has actually aged really well.
But you got to remember, Lamarte's is actually the second sculpt because there was an older sculpt of Lamarte's, wasn't there?
Yeah, so that was more. Well, it was it became Lamarte's, but it didn't start as Lamarte's. It started as Blood Angels Death Company chaplain.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then he got named Lamarte's, and then he got his own sculpt.
I see.
Because the Death Company always used to have to be led by a chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the original Tycho model wasn't Tycho; it was like Blood Angels Captain.
It was just Blood Angels Captain.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think the Sanguinor could be cool. His pose has always been a bit average, I would say. So
for me, with the pose, it's too much like Saint Celestine.
Yeah.
If you look at the old Celestine model and the current Sanguinor, about the same sort of age, they're identical poses.
Yeah. You think if you got a new pose, something like Sanguinius from the Horus Heresy with the sword putted down or something might be a nice change?
Essentially, yeah, just something a bit more interesting. I hope we keep having wings pointed down though, and I don't think a lot of those models look that good.
Okay.
Yeah, I like how he's like resplendent appearing.
Yeah.
I am saving you from the riding from the warp. Wah, kind of. look.
So it'd be cool
cool
just to have like a massive like halo of awesome come down from the sky, kind of. Think Void Dragon from Necron, something like that.
Yeah. So, what have you been painting then, guys?
Right. Well, we haven't had Mark's favourite model yet.
On the one hand, I'd like a new Lamatis because the Death Company is one of the most iconic things about Blood Angels, and having him leading new Death Company would be kind of cool. On the other hand, there's a bit in me that thinks, so Lamatis is a guy who's fallen to the Black Rage and hasn't been killed yet and can control it a bit. How the hell is he going to lie still on the operating table to receive the Primaris upgrades? That's going to be a bit weird. But that's a stupid reason not to have a model. I always really, really like the old Corbulo model, holding the Grail up heroically high. His rules have been awful for a couple of editions now. So I'd love to see a new Corbulo model, frankly.
Yeah, I agree with that, because it is a model that has aged quite well, but it is a bit dinky compared to some of the more modern stuff.
I was going to say, I feel like a couple of editions is generous of how...
I think his rules... Editions.
Yeah. I don't remember him being good since about second.
6. No. There was that one edition where he had the 3-up armor save and the 2-up feel no pain at the same time.
Oh yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
And that was funny.
That was funny, yeah, okay.
Right, so let's have a look at what Mark's been doing.
Mark has not been doing very much because Mark's not really given much of a crap about Warhammer for the past 6 months. But Mark has acquired a White Dwarf model because I thought it looked really cool. So I made sure to order and get hold of one of those. And it does look really cool. So I built that and sprayed it. It looks awesome. I'll look forward to having that waiting to get painted for the next few years. And I've been making a tiny bit more progress on the Striking Scorpions that I've been working on. So that is a picture of some models on my painting stick.
Is that stick covered in like putty, or is it just so much paint it's gone like a blue tack kind of texture?
This is not a blue tack texture. That's solid resin. That's spray paint hardened over and over and over and over and over and over again from repeated multiple use. That's not a soft putty type finish.
You stick them on there with blue tack.
Yeah.
That is a lot of paint on there.
I was going to say blue tack's white now, right?
Yeah. No, the blue tack's underneath it. It just gets sprayed either way. It's fine.
Yeah.
But that used to be a teaching meter ruler before it got covered in paint many times of different colours.
Good grief. That's a lot of paint.
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's what my second edition models looked like when I finished them back in the day.
Yeah. Do you remember there's that meme, isn't there, of thin your paints?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's me.
Okay. And then lastly is me. I haven't done an awful lot. Where if you're watching the stream it'd been 2 weeks ago at this point, I sat there doing a value sketch for all of my skeletons. So I did all sort of 30 or 40 skeletons with the airbrush while we were streaming, and then I started painting in some of the bone on some of them. So a few weeks ago we did a stream and I worked out my recipes, and that ended up looking like that.
Cool.
And now it's putting it over the big large scale on all of these skeletons for my Vampire Counts army of legends, because I thought it'd be fun to start an army that was already legend before I started it.
So when I was at the expo the other weekend, I saw that mouse mat on display there, and I almost bought one because it just looks so cool. But in the end, I didn't buy one because I saw something else instead, and I bought this. And it's this little metal ingot of carved in proper like
of the Emperor on the Golden Throne.
Of the Emperor on the throne.
Is that official GW, or where did you get that
this
from?
This is Merchoid.
Okay.
And yeah, you got official-ish, or at least licensed, and it's solid. You can knock some dents in some plasterboard with this quite happily, and I figured that would be a nice little.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Prop to take to live role plays, but it looks really nice.
Yeah.
What is English water?
So, if you are a watching painting videos on YouTube sort of fan, and you ever watch Angel Giraldez, who is one of the world's best painters, And whenever he's painting and things and doing his airbrushing, especially, he uses a bottle of Spanish water.
Okay.
So I thought, well, I'll have a bottle of English water then.
Okay.
But it's clearly not as good as Angel Giralda's because my models never look as good as his.
Is his water like labelled Spanish water? Is he just does he just say Spanish water over and over again or something?
Both.
I was going to say that's like in Scotland they'd be like, "See you, pal. Scottish water no good enough for you."
It's basically the same thing. So the joke that he makes is that he doesn't use any sort of like thinners and stuff like that when he's airbrushing. He just uses water.
Okay.
He kept asking about this liquid that he was thinning with, and he's like, "It's Spanish water." So then people start trying to buy Spanish water.
Okay. So English water. Okay. So if you need English water, email Tony. He'll hook you up.
Yeah.
Worldwide shipping. No problem.
About 10 quid a litre plus P&P.
You can buy it on our merch page, which you've still not yet to do.
Which is amazing. Right, so now we've done that, let's get on with what we're talking about. So
the whole point of the Army Listing Like a Pro episode is so that we can go deep on
I still like that. That was a great name for the main bulk of our episodes.
Why did we stop doing that?
Well, we're bringing it back.
I don't know. I think I'm bringing it back.
Bringing it back.
Yeah. Alongside the word wicked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to bring that back as well, I think.
Is it skibbity? Is that it? Yeah.
Skibbity dip 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 dip. I don't know what that.
Okay.
I never got into
I'm the scat man.
Any more?
We are. Right, come on, let's see what you got for us, Mark.
Okay, so the whole point, I haven't got anything yet. The whole point of the Army Listing Like a Pro episode and the idea behind it is not to give you some good pre-written lists that you can take to a tournament and kick ass with. The whole point is to go through the process that we go through when we write an army list and explain the thoughts and the reasonings behind what we pick, when we pick it, why we pick it, and all that kind of jazz. So it's to help people who struggle to write an army list think about the things that you might want to consider when you write an army list and why they're worth considering. And so that, and as we go through it as well, we'll like rip each other's to shreds and maybe improve our own processes. Who knows? We'll see how that goes. Absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting because I rewatched our episode from a couple of years ago before we made this one, and I was like, I haven't really changed my philosophy very much in how I write an army list since then. So it's going to be really interesting if you two are thinking differently to how you originally used to do it.
Fair enough. I don't think I massively am, but you never know, really, do we?
Let's find out.
Right, so I'm going to write a list right here and now and take it through from scratch. And I've just prepped a random crappy little Excel sheet so we can write it as we go. You can see it. It'll total up all the points as we go and so forth. I'm largely intending this because the new Prior Nexus and John's bored and pissed off already. Great.
No, I think one of my kids is keep going.
He saw Excel and just went, no.
Right,
no,
I'm off for that.
No,
yeah.
thank you.
Do that at work. Go away. So this will be like ideally it'll be scenario and mission independent, just like a general list, so to speak. For sake of argument, I'm going to write a Sons of Sanguinius one because it's going to be more fun that way. If you're being more tactical, we could go Gladius or whatever, but Sons of Sanguinius is what we're all here for Blood Angels. So
no, Gladius is shit. We're playing Sons. Sons is the way forward.
Oh, is that the new meta thing these days?
That's the word of the Blood Angels commander. That is.
This is the way.
This is the way. Okay. Yeah.
Fine. Cool.
Wish I had a Mandalorian helmet to put on right now.
Why don't you?
Because I'll buy one.
Right. Okay, fair enough. So when I'm thinking about writing a list, the units that I want to include, let's assume that this is collection agnostic, that you're either writing a list for a tournament that is going to happen in a few months' time, you've got time to buy and collect and build and paint and all this sort of stuff. Or let's just say models are no object for whatever reason. I'm going to want to hold my backfield, keep it secure. I'm going to want to attack and kill stuff. I'm going to want to have mobility in order to move around and claim whatever objectives, bits of the field, actions I'm going to need to at any given point. and I want resilient stuff to sit on and hold objectives out of my own deployment zone, I might also want action stuff to deploy and come in whenever I need to do whatever I need to at any given point based on weirdness that can happen in missions these days. And that's a rough sort of like breakdown. Goonhammer did a really good article about a year or so ago where they go through the various roles that different models can fill or different units can fill in your army. And they have fancy names for all this stuff, but I don't have the fancy names for all this stuff. So let's just go ahead with this. My first choice at the moment for these days for backfield objective holding and screening and being safe is an infiltrator squad, which I really like for the fact that they screen out 12 inches worth of deep strike.
And you never want to let things get 12 inches in.
There's so many things in the game these days that can deploy closer to 9 and just be annoying as well. So I think it's always worth having at least one unit of infiltrators in your army these days.
9 is nothing. It's 12 will go home.
What? What?
I'm being childish, Mark. Carry on.
Okay, good. I was wondering quite how worried we're going to have to be about YouTube reviews, but whatever. I also like pairing the infiltrators with the Phobos Libby these days, because that way I can stretch out my infiltrators like 20 odd inches or so, and they can't be shot at from outside the 12 because of the Phobos Librarians buff, giving them essentially lone operative. Yep. So that is a bit of an investment straight up in backfield protection, but you've basically got your own little castle going there. People can't deep strike in next to it. They can't shoot you off it. They've got to get right in to try and take it off you in melee, and hopefully you've got some of the units in the way for them to have to go through to get there. From there, you've got the core of your army is going to be, or the core of my army is going to be something solid to push forward, or I think about what I want to push forward in my early choices to take early objectives and hold them that you know are going to get either shot or charged or roasted by your opponents. So they have to be either resilient or cheap, or preferably both. Fast is always a good thing as well. Bikes are good because they're fast, but they can't go through buildings, and jump pack infantry are fast and can go through buildings quite happily. So jump pack infantry are probably what I would prefer for this sort of role, unless you're going in with something like a tank. And frankly, the Land Raider Redeemer is so good at the moment these days that it's hard not to include at least one of them going forwards and killing a whole bunch of stuff. So let's bung one of those in to just like be the central line holding bit of the army. What's good to put in a Land Raider Redeemer these days if you're going to have something to charge out of it?
You've got multiple choices. Centurions, Blade Guard. I mean, you can even put Sand Guard inside.
Assault Intercessors with characters can be pretty unpleasant in Sons of Sanguinius as well.
Yeah, the
Death
Captain
Company,
plus the
Death Company's pretty horrific.
Firstborn Death Company on foot with the Chaplain, 10 of them. It's probably the most meta pick.
Yeah, where you're just running it forwards and charging them out and going ham into whatever you can reach from there.
Well, the thing I didn't
vehicle rules.
The thing I didn't realize with the 10-man Death Company is if they do all get wiped, if you use Fight on Death, you get to fight with every unit with Sustain 2, and you get full rerolls to hit. So if the opponent, assuming that you come out of your Land Raider, make a charge, kill whatever you charge, because you got 10 Death Company, that's like 40 Power Fists with +1 to wound reroll hits. The opponent come and kill you in combat, you pay the 2 CP, and then the Death Company just delete whatever charged them as well, because they fight with Sustain 2 on Death, which is batshit crazy, basically.
I thought Fight on Death only worked if you hadn't already fought that phase, or are you talking about their turn?
Yeah, I'm talking about their turn. When they come to kill you in the counter charge. It's what's putting Blood Angels top high in the meta right now is that Death Company unit. It's that good. Some people are doing it. You can do it out of Rhinos as well, because 10 Death Company plus a Chaplain will fit in a Rhino.
No, that's fair. Let's go with that. 10 Death Company is pretty solid. 125 times 2. And a Chaplain on foot to lead them. Generally, characters I only want to put in if they're doing something to improve what the unit is doing and they cost enough to make it not prohibitively expensive to do so. There are going to be units where it's worth putting a character with them, and there's going to be units where it's really not worth it because they just do what they need to off their own back. And a chaplain with a melee unit is always going to be worthwhile.
There is one final caveat with that chaplain that you...
Yeah, go on.
If your transport gets destroyed, which I suppose can happen, the unit piles out, and because the transport is destroyed, the unit is battle shocked, right? However, the chaplain's ability once per game, at the start of any phase, you can select one friendly to start his unit that is battle shocked within 12 inches of this model, so you could just select yourself, and you can remove the battle shock. So it's like, it's just once per game, if you do come out of the destroyed transport, you can just sort of do some hijinks, I guess, and steal an objective or something like that, you know?
That's fair enough. So that's 740 points. It's almost half the army already. We got backfield, we got central field punch. So what we're looking for now is a little bit of fire support, probably one other group of units to move around and claim objectives mid-board and clear things off as they go. And I'm really still quite sold these days on Vindicators for being able to drive forward and shoot stuff with solid firepower, whether they do blast on larger units or do just all of their firepower with their high strength and AP and whatnot on a bigger, tougher target. And a pair of Vindicators is pretty tasty firepower.
It is, and it's cheap these days, and it's pretty hard to get numerous strength 14 shots from anything else in our detachment. Unless you're taking gladiators, but personally I don't like gladiators because I don't think they have enough weight of fire.
Yeah. You also want to get stuck in something that has the ability to drive forward, do it, shoot even when they're in combat, be able to get on an objective is well worth it. So this is kind of where I'm thinking at with this at the moment. We've just knocked slightly over the half points there, so that's kind of cool. What we're missing so far is maybe a few more reactive units to just be able to drop down and do actions here or there, claim an objective that's been left alone, shoot a few things off, sit in the backfield somewhere. And I think that the Inceptors are still really good for that because they can drop in a really small area unless it's screened out with infiltrated denier bubbles. And the firepower is not amazing, but it's not bad either. So a unit or two of Inceptors, I think, is always going to be worthwhile at the moment. I'm not listing what their loadouts are because, frankly, it doesn't matter in terms of points. So you can give these guys whatever bloody loadout you want.
I think the Plasma's the safer choice.
Safer?
Mm-hmm.
Why so? I thought you were heavily against the Plasma these days.
Well, the thing is that you play against Knights or something, and then all of a sudden your Inceptors only wound on 6s, and even with the Twin Link, they kind of don't do all that much damage, so I think the Plasma just means they're more going to be good against everyone. I mean, Bolter Inceptors are amazing if you come up against, like, a Elder army with a bunch of T3 bodies, but if you come up against a Knights army, they can just become unstuck. So I think the Plasma is just more going to be better all around. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That makes sense. What do you guys think this list is missing and could do with a bit of fire support? Maybe you got the Vindicator, which is
you got quite a bit of fire support. I think really what you're short on is numbers.
Yeah, a little bit of
You've
bodies.
Not got many bodies on the table at the moment.
Yeah,
I would add a 10-man squad, be it Death Company, be it Sanguinary Guard, be it Vanguard Veterans. Basically a 10-man jump pack squad, or be it Jump Assault Intercessors. And I would lead them by a character. I think that's...
What would their purpose be in this list, do you think? Reacting?
But also, at the end of the game, like they could even stay off the board until turn 3. At the end of the game, when the game gets stretched, like in my list at the moment, I have a 5-man Death Company with a Chaplain that I'm always bringing in turn 3, And usually the game's stretched at that point, so people can't really react to a chaplain with a jump pack coming in 12 inches away with rapid ingress. They will always kill way more than they cost. Just because they'll jump from one objective, kill a whole unit, jump to another objective, kill another whole unit, and usually, because the game's stretched at that point, no one's hitting them back with anything meaningful. They sometimes finish the game on full health, you know?
So, reserves to hold in place for... yeah.
So you could do that with a 5 or a 10-man death company. It just depends on, you know, like, do you want to play this as MSU type list, or do you want to just have a nice big death ball somewhere, I guess?
This is largely a take-all-comers kind of do everything sort of list in principle, which means it's not going to be amazing at anything. There's no overwhelmingly huge amounts of shoot you off the board firepower here. There's no overwhelming large numbers of melee death going on, except for the obviously the death company coming out of the Redeemer, but that's just one unit when you get right down to it. Things I would consider putting in here, if I'm being cautious, are things like Dreadnoughts, a Redemptor or two. Probably not the Ballistas, because I've always had a bit of an underwhelming experience with those when I've ran them.
You can't go wrong with the Redemptor, can you? You could go with a bit of armor in there. There's not a lot of armor in there. You've only got... Oh, no, you've got loads of armor. What we're talking about.
The Redeemer and Vindicators aren't
that's
weak.
A fair amount of armor. That. I mean, I'm a big fan of Predators as well, but...
Yeah, Bold Predators and normal Predators are fairly good, but they're also
I do think you
reasonably
need
cheap.
dumpers at the moment, because you're really running short on bodies on the board.
Yeah. Okay, the Blood Angels are supposed to be for the whole jumpy thing, so let's put some jump in. How much is
160? 160.
You know
80,
that
80 for 5. I've got 2 units on my list.
Fair enough. And like you say, it's always useful to not just have loads of the same thing. Maybe mix them up. So, are we still on the point of view where Van Vets are slightly more resilient with the? I hope that's a cat's tail.
It's a cat's tail.
Okay, good.
It's a cat.
Storm Shield's making them a little bit more resilient.
Yes, correct.
But do we want resilience or do we want killing power?
Well, it's your call. I mean, I think this list probably needs like a Vanguard veteran squad with a Sanguinary Priest, and then possibly like some units of scouts.
Yeah, scouts are always useful. Just come in and jump off, and well, they're kind of points fillers at the tail end of the army writing process, really, aren't they?
Yeah, the other thing is you can use 5-man squads of jump assault intercessors or 5-man squads of outriders as scouts.
Is a captain best to put with these, you reckon?
No, it's the Sanguinary Priest.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sanguinary Priest give them 5 up full AP and the extra AP, yeah.
Because they hit quite hard damage-wise. It's just they struggle to get through armor, so...
Sanguinary Priest is 110, I believe, and the Van Vets are 210.
No worries. Let's just go in with those.
I'm like 90% sure.
I always get a bit worried about having large masses of bodies on the board because I always find it a bit of a bugger to hide them.
Rapid ingress them. Rapid ingress them. Every single game. Rapid ingress them. Yeah.
That's the way, is it? So essentially you're bringing them in one unit at a time.
I'm bringing...
You bring them when you need them.
Yeah. Either turn 2 or turn 3. The second there's an opportunity that you can... They are too vulnerable. So you bring them in turn 2 or 3, you bring them in an obscured position. So yes, you'll lose a couple of bodies to some indirect fire or something like that. In fact, I lost 2 Sanguinary Guard when I rapid ingressed the 10-man squad last night. Yes, I lose 2 bodies, but then I'll basically be able to move 12 and make a unfailable charge, for example, and then just do a crap load of damage. Because if you bring them in 12.1 inches away and then you jump forward 12 inches, you could roll a double 1 on your charge just to make the charge. That's the most reliable way to bring them in and do damage.
That's fair enough. Makes sense.
Yeah, because you've got 80 left, then
that's scouts, basically.
I honestly think you could just do 5 jump assault intercessors.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the little squads of jump assault intercessors because they're quite cheap, they're quite quick, they do punch a little bit above their weight, I found.
They do, and they can be deep striked where scouts don't have deep strike. Scouts have reserves.
Yeah.
So
I'd rather pay the extra 20 points or whatever it is. I think scouts are 65 now, 15.
Yeah, it's 15 left.
15 I'd rather pay that. I'll pay that 15 points to get deep strike.
Okay, so we got a solid amount of infantry in there to just jump around and charge and annoy things and sit in some cover. Maybe be a bit annoying to take out. The AP from the priest is good. The feel no pain from the priest is good. Is it feel no pain from the priest these days?
Yeah. Feel no pain.
5 random assault intercessors to just do whatever you need them to at any given point. You've got something to hold your backfield, something to charge forward and be a huge distraction kind of fix either in the middle or down a flank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thinking that I would have to build a list. And when I got to a point where I'd written all the things that I thought were obvious, I'd go and seek some advice from people I trust, like Tony and John.
The only piece of advice that might come up and that might change things based on the new mission pack is there will be an advantage in the new mission pack to have battle line units.
Yep.
So there could be something to be said about the assault intercessors with jump packs could get swapped out for a regular intercessor squad for 80 points because they're battle line. That gives you sticky objectives. They can be your action monkeys. They can run around and just sticky stuff and try and do actions. And there is, because they're battle line now, on certain missions they'll be able to still shoot and do actions. They'll be able to advance and do actions. And some
or
other
maybe
stuff.
even just swap out the Death Company on foot in the Land Raider for assault intercessors on foot in the Land Raider. So that's another possibility as well.
True. Yeah, if you lead them by a captain, the captain does a lot of bonuses for them basically.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me.
Seems very logical. Makes sense.
There's no upgrades in here because I largely don't rate the current set of upgrades.
They're okay, but they're a lot of points, and I don't feel like they deliver nearly as much as.
There's nothing that I want to build a list around in terms of the Blood Angels upgrades.
Yeah.
And if I'd had the points left over like 30 or 40 at the end, then I'd do so. But in this case, I don't. So yeah, cool, brilliant.
Yeah,
makes sense. Right, well, Mark, let's have a look at John's next, if you don't mind, John.
Yeah, of course. Can you
take over?
Stop sharing this window, and I'll share my window.
Certainly. Tony, are you aware that your images stopped?
I wasn't actually. Where have I gone?
Me, at least, anyway.
You've gone away.
No, I've not got any electricity in my camera.
That'll do it.
Got unplugged.
Can you see my window?
I can.
Okay, good.
It's all right. You don't want to see me anyway.
Okay.
You have a weird undulating cattail in front of your face.
I'm a weird undulating cattail, so that can just sit there for a minute while that fixes itself.
So this is a list I'm taking to the GT. I've been playing it for probably 2 months at this point. I probably have 8 or 9 games under my belt with it. I have in recent weeks beaten Orcs, Bully Boys, which are batshit broken. I've beaten Eldari, which I also think are kind of broken.
Well, you finally beat them. Well done.
Beaten Death Guard. I beat Dark Angels. And last night I lost to Grey Knights, but literally it was on a dice roll in the very final turn. So this list
doesn't feel too bad to lose to then in that case.
No, I think like he had a Tech Marine on 1 wound, and he had like 2 strike squad guys left. That was it. I still had a full health Ballistus. I still had a full health Predator. I still had a full health Death Company and a Chaplain. So it was Grey Knights scoring shenanigans that I had to get round. And last night, this list played into 3 Redeemers. I have like 50 infantry in this list, so playing into 3 Redeemers was horrific. So this list has got serious legs, and like I said, I'm going to take it to the GT. I'm going to take it even though the points changes and the battle line changes will come out. I won't have any battle line. It's got no... it's got no battle line in it. So
what's the first thing you put in the list when you wrote it?
Probably 2... Well, do you know what? It would probably be Dante plus 10 Sangre Guard, because I wanted to play Dante plus 10 Sangre Guard. I didn't know if he could be competitive. The answer is he can be very competitive. Dante and the Sangre Guard need to be in reserve. They need to be rapid ingress. They can't survive anything, but boy, can they do a good amount of damage, right? Because the second they charge...
targets. Yeah.
Against pretty much any target, because you play the lethal hits +1 to wound, and you just have so many attacks. What do you get? You get 40, strength 7, -2 damage. Bear in mind, Dante's giving you +1 to charge and +1 to hit. So you get 40, strength 7, -2. So technically that's 80 damage potentially. Then you have 8 power fists, so they're strength 10, -2 damage, so that's another 16. And then you've got 9 attacks from Dante, so it's another potential 18. So the squad can do over 100 damage, basically. Just
so you started with a melee punch ball, basically.
Yeah, and bear in mind that if I'm rapid ingressing them, then I'm going to move 12 inches, and I'm going to try and position them so all 11 Infernal Pistols will be in Melta range. So I'll hit you with 10 Infernal Pistols and Dante's sustained Melta pistol as well before I even charge you. So they're 430 points, which is giant. I think that's right. Where are they? Right at the very bottom of the list? Yeah. 310 plus 120. So they're 430 points, which is giant, but and they die very, very fast. But the way that I'm getting the most value out of them is you want to be multi-charging. So you can probably split, because you got so many attacks there, you could split across 2 units. So in one of the games when I beat Eldar, I was actually able to kill 4 different units in one turn in combat with that Sangre Guard. I multi-charged 4 units. I think I killed like a squad of Strike Scorpions, I think I killed 2 Walkers, I don't remember what the third unit was, like a squad of Snipers or something, but I killed 4 units. So they are what the list is hinging around. I've got the Impulsor with the Captain and the Company Heroes, and their squad is a durable squad that does a little bit of damage. Company Heroes are -1 to wound all the time. Because they're led with a Captain, it means I've got a free stratagem on them all the time. So I'm basically going to always be Armor of Contempting them. So Company Heroes are going to basically be permanently Armor Contempted and -1 to wound, and they are 4 wounds per model. So that squad has like 21 wounds across 4 wound models, -1 to wound, permanent Armor of Contempt. They're in an Impulsor as well, so they're just going to go to the center of the board or a difficult to hold objective, and they're going to hold it.
Okay.
They're OC2 as well, because there's a Banner Bearer in the Company Heroes. And here's the thing, when the Captain makes his charge, he gets 9 attacks with a Strength 10 Power Fist, and you can do Dev Wounds on that as well. So that's like a very meta little combo. I've got 2, then we come to the rule of 2, right? So it's like 2 squads of Assault Intercessors. I'm using them a bit like we just talked about. They're scouts, and also they can kill some with chainswords.
Like skirmishers, I suppose.
Yeah. 2 5-man squads of Death Company, Infernal Pistol and Power Fist, both led by a Chaplain. So they have OC, they can fall back. That's 5 Infernal Pistols as well. I'm reserving 1 every single game as well. If I don't feel like Dante has a good rapid ingress target in turn 2, I'll do 5 of these guys, and then I'll do it vice versa. So basically, a Death Company squad of 5 and Dante's squad are both going to rapid ingress turn 2, rapid ingress turn 3. I'm doing that every single game. So
you
there's
built your punch first, and now you're sort of like building around the main punch of the army.
Yeah, so it's just like every unit has like a pretty distinct purpose. We've got the Infiltrator, same as you, to hold the backfield. I've got 2 squads of Outriders. I'm going to put 1 on both flanks. They're going to go to an objective. They're going to try and hold it. You talked about having fast and durable. That's what these guys are. They're actually going to end up being action monkeys as well. And you'd be surprised at how many people are worried about the Outriders. Like, it seems like every single game people are targeting the Outriders quite frequently. And I'm like, well, sure, if you're going to target my 4 wound toughness 5 Outriders, that means you're not targeting all my like Death Company Marines or my Sangre Guard Marines and other stuff. The Outriders, they only have chainswords. They only get like 2 bolter shots each. They're not actually that scary, but people seem to every game people seem to go after the Outriders. They're desperate to kill them. I got the 2 Predator Destructors because I thought all cannons are very good at killing infantry. The las cannons, when they are AP4, are very good at killing infantry. I do have 1 squad of scouts, so I mean, points.
Was that
a
conscious choice, or was that just leftover points?
Pretty much leftover points. And I don't have any more Outriders. I might take the 3rd squad of Outriders if I'd had more points. And then I've got Ballistus Dreadnought in there as well, because I feel like I have to have some anti-armor. I like having some anti-armor.
Okay.
And that's it.
Just going down to the scouts at the bottom a little bit, if I can, please. How come you don't run the missile launcher or the sniper rifle in there?
Because they don't do any damage. Having played them like 10 times.
More than a shotgun?
So there's one shotgun in the squad and everybody else has a combat knife.
Okay.
So basically what that means is when the scouts charge, I believe if you have a combat knife you get 3 attacks. So when you're charging with a Blood Angel you get 4 attacks. So you get 4 strength 6 attacks. So the 3 scouts get 12 strength 6. The guy with the shotgun gets 3, so you get 15 strength 6. And then you get the 5 chainswords as well. So you get 20 strength hits.
Okay. So
and I think that's a lot. Yeah, I think it actually does a lot better than the 1 missile and the 1 sniper rifle. Especially, like, for example, I'm playing Eldar a lot, right? So Eldar are going to jump like warp spiders into my DZ. Well, I can actually mop them up with a squad of scouts because I'm going to wound Eldar on 2s, right? With those strength 6 knives. And because their saves aren't that good, the scouts actually legitimately kill a unit of Eldar every turn. So I just think for Blood Angels, they're better. The one thing that I have said a couple of times is, like, if you're going to play Sons of Sanguinius Detachment, then I wanted to try and get the absolute most out of that, like get the most out of the +2 strength and get the most out of the +1 attacks. So that's why, like, there is only 4 shooting units. Like, there's a Ballistus, and the reason that I've taken Ballistus and Predator Destructors is because they're literally the cheapest, right? So if you add like those 2 together plus the Ballistus, that's 400 points. So basically what I'm saying is I have 1,600 points that's going to take advantage of my chapter +1 attack, +2 strength. And nice. Do you know what? I think it'll do okay because I've been beating a lot of people with it. But it does take a few turns to come online, right? Because like I am the Sanguinary Guard in reserve every game, the Death Company in reserve every game. So I have to sort of weather the storm, and I guess the way I weather the storm is get those Outriders out on objectives, get that Impulsor out on objectives, and then try and react. And yeah, that eats up a lot of my CP every game, but I am winning, so I don't know if it's perfect, but it's working for me.
Your playstyle over the years has always pretty solidly been just waiting for the first couple of turns to be able to jump on someone solidly from turn 3 onwards.
Yeah, so it's
largely because you've been used to waiting for the assault doctrine to kick in, but yeah.
Someone said on stream last night, he was like, John takes the first half of every game off. I was like, have you seen how much infantry I've got? I'm playing against 3 Redeemers. How the hell do you not take the first half of the game off? I can't go anywhere on this board without getting hit by like 20 strength 6 -2 flamers. So yeah, this is a. If this list does well at the GT, I'll make a proper video on it, covering it for Blood Angels. But it's I'm trying
this
to.
It's meant to be more about how you go about writing your list than the contents of the list itself. So yeah.
So I'm trying to take as much advantage as I can from my detachment. I'm trying to make sure I have durable things that are fast moving to score, and then I'm trying to make sure that I have lots that can jump on people and kill them. Meanwhile. And I think you kind of touched on at the end of your list when you said you could put a couple of Redemptors in at the end of your list, which would have been totally fine, as well as putting the jump units. I guess that would have swung you a little bit more maybe towards Gladius because you didn't have as much melee, but...
Or Ironstorm as well. Yeah.
If people are generally scared of the jump units and the Outriders and that, and putting all their firepower into them, well, if you're going to leave my 2 Predator Destructors and my Ballistas to just shoot for the entire game... across the course of the game, that's like 20 las cannons, probably like 30 autocannon shots. It's going to kill some... Like, you can't just ignore it all game, or that alone will probably do too much damage. So it kind of diversifies, but it gives me fire support, but on the absolute minimum cost, right? And that's one of the reasons, like, I like the Land Raider Redeemer, and I was running it in my Blood Angels list. I just couldn't get it to work for me. So it's a good strong unit, but for whatever reason, into some matches it works brilliantly. You play against Death Guard or something, and they're running around with all their Plague Marines. The Redeemer is priceless, but then maybe you play, like I played a game against a Castellan Knight, and I had 2 Land Raiders in that game, and they kind of just felt like a liability because the Castellan's got like a
Playing against Tyranids was what sold me on the benefits of it for my army. But yeah, I get you.
But everything's got weaknesses, right? Like if I was playing against the Castle, and then my Predator Destructors just get one shot off the board as well. So
that is literally the game.
Yeah. So that's me. That's what I have.
Right.
Okay.
I can't take my eyes off that bloody Obey poster you've got in the background. That's just. Ugh.
Oh, it's cool, isn't it? I think it's cool.
Thank you. I love that movie so much.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's such a good film. Okay, right. So I'm the last one up.
Go for it.
And let me just bring myself up. Need to work.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, bring yourself up.
Hey.
The moment I just see Grots go deep, is that right?
You do.
Yeah, that's all I could see.
I like that. We always go deep here.
It's true.
Right, so hopefully this is popping up. There it is. And so I want to talk about the theory behind my list before I worry about the list too much itself, because as when I'm building a list, what's in the list is actually largely irrelevant, and what is more important is the role. It's a little bit like Mark was saying. You've got different roles in your army, and you need something to play those different roles. And there's going to be some things in there that are really good for that. And there's some things in there that might not be quite so good for that. And I don't think it matters too much as long as you fill the role. So this list I've put together here is not meta in any way. There's no Death Company in it for a start. And I know that Death Company is probably the strongest unit we've got. But I didn't need it. I didn't have the use for the Death Company. I had other things that were going to fill that role, so I didn't worry about it too much. What is important is the roles that you want to fill. So the way I look at it, you need to be able to do a couple of different things. The first thing you've got to be able to do is deal with tanks. If you remember the old, especially when Knights came in, they were the gatekeeper army. You had to be able to play against a Knight army and have a chance of winning. So I need a lot of anti-tank. On the other hand, I need to be able to deal with what if they turn up and they're going to go Green Tide or Niddy Horde. So I need something that's going to deal with a lot of infantry.
Yep.
So that's my first two kind of extreme armies that I've got to build, because anything else is somewhere between.
Yeah, and you've not specified melee or firepower at this point.
No,
you can literally go either way quite happily.
I've just got to be able to kill tanks, and I've got to be able to kill infantry.
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing I need to do is I need to score some points. So I need some things that can take objectives, can hold objectives, and can get to objectives effectively. And actually, I only need two of those things. I either need to be able to take and hold, or I need to be able to get there and hold, or I need to be able to get there and take it. Because so I can go a couple of different ways. I could go with something that's very quick and very offensive, and will come in, clean something off the objective. Probably can't take a punch, but that's not the point. I've taken the objective. Or I need to get there and stay there, and they can't get me off of it. So maybe something a bit fast and heavy. Vehicles are quite good for that one. Although they don't have a lot of OC, they're a bug at getting them off there. Or transports full of infantry. Absolute bastards, because they kill the transport and all the infantry gets out of it. They're not going to do any damage, but they're a bug to get off. Or maybe I'll move a bit slowly, and whatever I've cleared off isn't coming back. And that's the sort of thing that I might use for a central objective. And then the last thing that I need to take into account with all of these things is I need to have multiple sources. So let's say, for example, I want to go into a battle and I bring one uber death perfect anti-tank unit. Okay. And I put all my points into it. I bring my Thunderhawk or a Falchion or something like that. And I can annihilate tanks. And then somebody kills my Falchion on turn one. And then I've got no chance of winning anymore. I've got no answer to any of those different things. So I need to disaggregate those abilities across multiple sources. I can't put all of my eggs in one basket and just bring one perfect thing for killing that one thing, because if it dies, I'm absolutely screwed. Yep. So that's my kind of starting point. Now, I joked about it in the last time, and I still work on that sort of loose principle of I want 3 ways to do any one thing. And I sort of loosely split my army into 3. It's why I'm not a big fan of things like Death Star units, because they cost too many points. And if I've got that, then I'll have one big unit can do one thing really, really well, but if I lose it, I'm in big trouble because I've had to sacrifice elsewhere. And that's how this is all built up. So we'll start this then at the end of it. Let's start with how we're going to deal with some tanks. Well, the first thing I've got is 2 Vindicators. Vindicators, they hit a strength 14. They've got quite a lot of shots, and they don't cost many points. So they're pretty good at killing anything particularly heavy. So I've got a couple of those. And then the third thing that I've got in here is I've got if I can find him, a Land Raider. Now, I know the Redeemer's a better Land Raider. The Flamers are excellent, but all as cannons isn't bad, and it costs me quite a lot less points. So I've now got 3 sources of ranged anti-tank in my army. If you kill off 1, I don't care, I've still got 2.
Fair.
Then I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to be able to probably kill off some hordes of infantry. What am I going to do about hordes of infantry? I need lots of shots from something. The Land Raider doesn't really have that. The Vindicators don't really have that. But what does have that? Bolters. So I need some bolters in some description, or I need lots of melee attacks. So how about then a big unit of assault intercessors? That'll give me a nice chunk of anti-infantry.
Mm-hmm.
They're all punching relatively hard. There's a lot of attacks in there.
Yep.
But I need a little bit more than that. I can't just rely on one of those. So I've disaggregated a little bit more. So I've got a couple of little units of intercessors, the assault ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite nice at clearing off little units of stuff. I've put flamers on my assault centurions, which will come up a little bit later when we talk about those. And I've got a couple of units of infiltrators. They're not particularly shooty, but there's 2 units of them. That's a few bolter shots. And my terminators are with bolters. They're the guys with guns. So that's given me a fair amount then of anti-infantry fire. It's not particularly good anti-infantry fire, but it's lots of strength for shots, things like that. That's going to clear
voluminous, you might say.
Or I've got harder hitting melee. So that's going to deal with my anti-infantry. The next area that I'm talking about is I need to be able to take points and hold them. I need to be able to get to points and hold them, or I need to be able to get to points and clear them. And that's where we've got 2 units of Terminators. I think Terminators in Sons of Sanguinius are brilliant. They're one of my favourite units at the moment. I love the fact that they get lots of attacks and they smack at strength 10. Strength 10 melee attacks, quite a few of them. I've got a couple of chain fists in there. I'm not sold on that.
You don't need the chain fists, 100%.
I don't think
Can I ask you a question? Why I've got the Terminator Librarian at 90 points. What enhancement did you give him?
I gave him whatever one was 15 points, and I had 15 points left over.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I've got a Terminator Librarian. Yeah, ignore the chain fists. I don't know why I left them in there. It's because it's an old list that I edited. The Librarian in Terminator armor, and I've got a Chaplain in Terminator. The Chaplain with the Terminators is brilliant. Giving them all lance means that they'll wound anything in the game on a 4+.
So, statistically,
yeah,
the Librarian with the Terminator armor is the best choice.
Yep.
Because he gives sustained hits to both shooting and melee. Yep. And I didn't realise this until this week. He gives you a 4-up feel no pain against psychic.
Yep.
Right? But that also includes dev wounds. And most psychic stuff has dev wounds. So, for example, the Chaplain gives you a feel no pain against mortals. Well, that's not dev wounds anymore, is it? No. So the Librarian is giving you a better buff. I mean, the Chaplain's fine, but I think if you've got 2 Librarians in Terminator armor, you would actually make this link stronger by having both units led by a Librarian.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. But they've got a character in there to buff them up anyway. You can go with whatever you want. There's 75 points. The Chaplain makes them hit slightly harder, I think, maybe. The against armor. The Librarian's going to be probably a better all-rounder. But it doesn't matter. I've got 2 units. They hit quite hard. They're quite resilient. They've got a bit of shooting, and I can use those to take and hold a point. I can deep strike them onto something, and I can take that objective.
And you can rapid ingress them, one of them, for sure. Yeah. It's good.
So the last thing then that I've got is I need to be able to hold points. Well, I've got 2 units of infiltrators. That's going to be able to hold a couple of points quite well. It's going to prevent anybody from taking them. I can use them to hold a objective in my own deployment zone, or I can use them to stick on something and they're just some infantry that's going to prevent things from getting close. Again, it doesn't really matter. I've just got something that is going to make it hard to take a point. They're going more resilient style from a melee point of view. And lastly, I need a bit of speed so I can try and get there quickly and try and clear something off, or just get there quickly. I've got 2 units of assault intercessors with jump packs, and I've got a little unit somewhere of outriders, because the same reason John is, they're pretty good, they're pretty durable, they don't hit terribly either. The characters I've got in there are largely, again, not that important. I've got Mephiston. Maybe I should swap him out for another chaplain.
You quite like the Mephiston Assault Intercessor combo, though, don't you?
Yeah, I do quite like the Mephiston Assault Intercessor combo. I love the fact that he gets strike first.
Yes, that's nice. 10.
And with 10 of them as well, that's horrible to just stick up the middle of the board and clear stuff off. And not very expensive, really.
What does the Tech Marine do? Run along behind the Land Raider?
Sorry, the Tech Marine can run along behind the Land Raider, or he can hang out with the Vindicators. I've got a fair bit of armor in there. Whatever he's going to buff, he's going to buff it quite nicely. He's 55 points, and he's no slouch in melee either.
No, he gets a good number of melee attacks, doesn't he?
I think he's quite a decent 55-point heal up, buff up, or stabby things that want to charge my tanks. So I know I've not spent much time on the individual units because I don't think they're really all that relevant. You know, the episode we're talking about is how I build an army list, and that's kind of what we're doing. I haven't played with this one. Maybe, like I say, I'd maybe tweak out one of the chaplain for a librarian. Maybe I'll swap the Fiston for another chaplain. I don't know. It doesn't matter because it's still doing the same job, if that makes sense. This is the approach that I'll make if I'm going to a tournament or if I just want to play with friends. We talked earlier on about trying to build lists for the new mission pack. I've not done that specifically in mind, but this is for any kind of mission that I'm sort of trying to play.
Well, you're from Battle Line, so you got something going for you for sure.
There's a little bit of Battle Line in there for those missions. And I just think Assault Intercessors are quite cheap and killy for their points.
Yeah, well, once the new thing comes in fully, it's out there. People have read it. People have got their hands on it. People have seen all the things, both in the little fold-out rules pamphlet and in all the cards. Then you can take that all into account and adjust your choices as you need.
I still really
the reasons why you choose things, kind of don't change.
No, and that's what this is about. This is I've got some rolls and I filled them up. Maybe I'm using my own collection, or maybe I'm playing a different army. But it doesn't really matter. I'm still trying to do the same things. I need some stuff to bring down vehicles. I need some stuff to take out infantry. I need some stuff to take and hold objectives. And I want to have multiple versions of those things. So it doesn't matter if I'm playing Custodes, I'll build it in the same way, or my Blood Angels, or anything else really. Still got that same slots that I'm filling, and it can just be of whatever's in the cupboard. It might not be a meta. I might not win a tournament with it because I haven't got 5 of the whatever, or 3 of the very best units, but it will mean that I've got a decent chance against most opponents most of the time. And that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Cool.
That makes sense.
I like that you're running Librarians and Terminator Armor. I'm so sad you don't have 5 more points because there's a really nice... I was going to say, there is one enhancement, I think, that has weight in Blood Angels.
Go on.
And it's Artisan of War on that Librarian. Because if you put Artisan of War on them, yes, half the enhancement is he gets a 2-up save, so that's pointless because you already got the Terminator. But it does improve your AP by 1, which means that Terminator Librarian Smite becomes AP 2, and he can have 6 attacks, and he gets sustained 1. Mm-hmm. So that Smite can do like significant damage. Like you could take 10 plus damage from an enemy in a Smite. And then I guess for his Force Sword as well, Force Weapons are all AP 1 now. So again, getting AP 2 on the Force Weapon is pretty nice. So he's honestly about the only character in the Blood Angels Codex. Not many people take him, so I really like that you've taken him. He's about the only character that can benefit from one of our enhancements, and he is the man. So,
and frankly, from the starter box for 10th ed, the model's gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is. I haven't finished painting mine yet. He's still sitting up there. Wherever he's gone, I've lost him.
And if you're after another
nearly painted,
if you're after another Librarian Terminator Armor model for Blood Angels, get a hold of the Calistarius model out of Space Hulk and use that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I mean, Blood Angels do have their own Terminator. Did they still sell that one?
I don't know. It came with the combi melter, didn't it? And the axe. I was never really much of a fan of that model.
I have them. There was a Blood Angels Terminator Librarian that came with a combi melter and an axe. I'm not sure if they still sell them.
Somewhere. I never quite finished building him because my one's modified and I gave him a power spear.
So did I. No way, really?
I thought it looked cool. So yeah, I converted mine and I've never got around to finish painting him either. I think he's in a drawer somewhere.
Oh, you can still buy him. I gave him a spear because at that time, remember that was the time where the weapon options really mattered. Yeah. Oh, he's temporarily out of stock on the GW website. Maybe you can find him at a reseller. Cool,
but the new one's great. I've got the to be honest, the reason I've got the chaplain in there is because I've got one that's painted. Yeah. And he looks like cool. I've got that special edition one they did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I like the new one with the shield, but where do you get him? Do you have to buy him? Is he a standalone?
He's available as a soulless character. Yeah.
He wasn't in like Leviathan box, right?
No, he wasn't.
No. Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so to be honest, the reasoning for the chaplain and Mephiston is I wanted a character to buff up those units, and I've got 2 of those painted.
Yeah. Fair choice, any.
That's the logic, and I think Mephiston's not bad, you know.
Yeah, he's not. So I didn't realize until recently though that Librarian with the sustained, if you use Red Rampage on him and use Oath of the Moment on him, his damage might actually be one of the best in the entire game for Blood Angels. Like he might be out damaging Death Company, just because you get
a lot of CP investment.
Well, just 1 CP, but your Oath of the Moment as well.
Yeah.
But if you rapid ingress that unit, you make a charge. Yeah, you do a lot of damage with that Librarian unit.
Yeah, I rate Terminators. I rate Terminators in Blood Angels. They are a bit slow, but they hit really hard, and they do take a bit of killing back, which I quite like.
Yeah, I'd really like to try that Librarian unit into Zinch Army or Grey Knights or something that has a lot of psychic attacks, because it's just basically a flat 50% damage reduction against psychic, right? Because it's a 4-up feel no pain against all psychic attacks. In the dev wounds is a big one because all those psychic attacks do dev wounds on 6s, so you could just
it doesn't matter what kind of damage it is. If it originated from a psychic attack, then that'll cover it.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, that's how I build a list rather than necessarily a list that I think is going to win GTs and things like that.
Yeah, well, none of us here won GTs or things like that. So
not for many years. It's been a long time since I was hardcore in the tournament scene.
I win best sportsman. If that's worth anything.
Yeah. To be fair, even many years ago when I did play, and I used to go around Europe playing tournaments and things, I used exactly the same theory. Nothing changed. Still 3/3 of my army do the same jobs.
If there's a criticism I'll level at mine, I think that I focus too much upon the utility and the resilience rather than having the killer instinct that John has, because John's builds list right straight away. It's going to be about what's going to do the most damage and be the killy center punch of the list. And I keep trying to go against that, and I keep defaulting back to the way I always like to build it. So whatever.
Well, you built that one that I quite liked earlier this year. Was it this year or the end of last year with the 2 Vindicators, 2 Redemptors? That was quite killy.
Yeah, that was fun.
To be fair, I lost a lot of games when I moved from Gladius to Sons of Sanguinius.
You play a lot of games though, so that's good because you're getting used to it. You're running out the kinks. You're practicing as you go.
Because I think when I built this list, I almost was laughing. Like I just threw 2 squads Outriders in there. Everyone's saying don't run Outriders. I put 10 Sanguinary Guard and Dante in there. Everyone's saying don't run those. And I was like, I just want to try. And I liked what Tony said. Like he said, he doesn't build his lists around meta. Well, 10 Sanguinary Guard and Dante are the most unmeta thing ever. But for example, last night there was 2 Land Raiders round Dante, so Dante makes them both take battle shocks at -1 in the fight phase. Both Land Raiders fail their battle shock. What does that mean? It means there's no friggin' Overwatch from 2 Land Raider Redeemers. That was huge, and not many people are running Dante. And I was like, wow, that was actually a huge thing Dante did there with those battle shocks.
I do think that people pay too much attention, and this isn't a criticism. Now, I've changed my tune a little bit, and I was watching, and it's because we've been playing a lot of Star Wars Unlimited and things like that. I was watching a video about that and net decking and net listing and things like that, and saying actually maybe it's a good thing. But I do think people sometimes put too much weight on, I've seen this tournament winning army and therefore I'm going to copy it because it's that tournament winning armies, rather than really looking at why did that player, you look at the best players in the world, they're not picking things because they're meta generally, they're picking things for a purpose.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, we say, you know, John, you mentioned earlier about the 10-man death company looking at fight on death. Well, that's only just appeared, but it's been in the codex for ages. But it's something someone's gone, oh, I need a thing.
The whole year it's been live for.
Yeah, it's been. I've got an idea. It's not, but I've got a purpose, and I've built this unit of it. And then people have gone, wow, and it will pop up everywhere. You know, meta is made if you can follow other people's ideas, but if you want to break it and do something new, then you need to think about a new way of using a unit that perhaps people haven't used, like your 10 Sanguinary Guard. And nobody's rating Sanguinary Guard, but actually in this particular play case, with this particular use case, they're brilliant.
Yeah,
they work really well. Even if in isolation they look a bit rubbish.
So yeah, cool. Thanks everybody for joining us for this wander through our thought processes as we explore how we write our army lists and why we write them the way we do and the choices we make and going into them. Hopefully you got some value out of it. Hopefully it's made you question some assumptions, or maybe you just think double down on this the way I do it. It's right. Leave all the comment type stuff. Tell us what you do. Tell us what we did wrong, because everybody loves to tell us we're wrong on the internet. That's always great.
Absolutely. Click the like button if you liked it. Click the dislike button if you didn't like it. Leave us a comment if you want. Subscribe, but only do it responsibly. Don't waste your clicks. And we'll catch you on the next one.
And join us over on Patreon for
and join us on Patreon.
If you like what we do, if you enjoy all the random little things Tony says and the beers he drinks, and fancy giving us a price of a cup of coffee a month, take a look at it.
That's it. All right.
You can suggest us things that we might do and cover and stuff. But hey,
absolutely. Bye bye.